Arman's life took an unexpected turn one fateful morning. The sun had barely risen when a loud crash came from the living room. Rushing downstairs, he found his father on the floor, clutching his chest. Panic surged through the family as they rushed him to the hospital. The diagnosis was grim, a severe heart condition requiring immediate surgery. The cost was astronomical, far beyond their means. Arman felt the weight of his family's hopes and fears squarely on his shoulders. Without hesitation, he emptied his small savings, which he'd been hoarding for years to start his business. It wasn't enough. Desperate, he sold his prized possession, his bicycle, which he used for deliveries. Even then, the money barely covered half the expenses. Arman stood outside the hospital, staring at the sky, feeling a mixture of anger and helplessness. He had worked tirelessly, sacrificed small joys, and yet here he was, starting from nothing again. His father's surgery was successful, but the family was left in deeper debt than ever before. At night, Arman sat alone on the rooftop, his notebook untouched. Doubts crept into his mind. Was it worth dreaming when reality seemed so unforgiving? It was his father's weak but firm voice that snapped him out of his despair. "Son," his father said one evening, gripping Arman's hand from his hospital bed, "storms will come. They'll shake you, bend you, but they'll never break you unless you let them. This isn't the end. It's a test to see how much you want what you're chasing." Something in those words reignited Arman's spirit. Determined to rebuild, Arman threw himself into work. He took on multiple jobs, working at the bakery by day, delivering groceries at night, and cleaning warehouses on weekends. Exhaustion became his constant companion, but he embraced it as a necessary step toward his goals. He decided to learn. Every spare moment, he devoured free resources on his old phone. YouTube videos about entrepreneurship, online articles about managing money, and motivational speeches from those who had overcome the odds. One day, he heard about an online course on starting small businesses. The course cost more than Arman could afford, but he refused to let the opportunity slip by. With nothing to lose, he approached the instructor, an accomplished entrepreneur named Mr. Kapoor, and made a bold offer. "Sir," Arman began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I can't pay for your course, but I'm willing to work for you. Let me clean your office, run errands, anything. Just teach me." Kapoor was taken aback by Arman's determination. After a moment's thought, he nodded. "I'll teach you, but remember, learning is useless if you don't act on it." For the next 6 months, Arman worked tirelessly for Kapoor while soaking up every bit of knowledge he could. He learned about budgeting, marketing, customer service, and most importantly, resilience. But life had another curveball in store. With his newfound skills and savings, Arman invested in his first venture, a street food cart. He planned meticulously, choosing a high-traffic location and creating unique recipes. For a while, it seemed promising. Customers flocked to his cart, and he began to see the fruits of his labor. Then disaster struck. A sudden week of heavy rain drove customers away, leaving him with spoiled ingredients and mounting losses. Competitors moved in, offering lower prices, and his dream began to crumble. Arman stood in the rain one night, staring at his empty cart, feeling the sting of failure. But instead of giving up, he reminded himself of his father's words. "This isn't the end," he whispered to himself. "It's another test." Determined to rebuild, Arman threw himself into work. He took on multiple jobs, working at the bakery by day, delivering groceries at night, and cleaning warehouses on weekends. Exhaustion became his constant companion, but he embraced it as a necessary step toward his goals. He decided to learn. Every spare moment, he devoured free resources on his old phone. YouTube videos about entrepreneurship, online articles about managing money, and motivational speeches from those who had overcome the odds. One day, he heard about an online course on starting small businesses. The course cost more than Arman could afford, but he refused to let the opportunity slip by. With nothing to lose, he approached the instructor, an accomplished entrepreneur named Mr. Kapoor, and made a bold offer. "Sir," Arman began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I can't pay for your course, but I'm willing to work for you. Let me clean your office, run errands, anything. Just teach me." Kapoor was taken aback by Arman's determination. After a moment's thought, he nodded. "I'll teach you, but remember, learning is useless if you don't act on it." For the next 6 months, Arman worked tirelessly for Kapoor while soaking up every bit of knowledge he could. He learned about budgeting, marketing, customer service, and most importantly, resilience. But life had another curveball in store. With his newfound skills and savings, Arman invested in his first venture, a street food cart. He planned meticulously, choosing a high-traffic location and creating unique recipes. For a while, it seemed promising. Customers flocked to his cart, and he began to see the fruits of his labor. Then disaster struck. A sudden week of heavy rain drove customers away, leaving him with spoiled ingredients and mounting losses. Competitors moved in, offering lower prices, and his dream began to crumble. Arman stood in the rain one night, staring at his empty cart, feeling the sting of failure. But instead of giving up, he reminded himself of his father's words. "This isn't the end," he whispered to himself. "It's another test." The rain had stopped, but the storm inside Arman raged on. His first business venture had crumbled before it could take root, leaving him with debts and doubts. For days, he avoided the cart, wandering aimlessly through the town, trying to piece together where he had gone wrong. Failure was a bitter pill, but Arman refused to let it define him. One evening, he revisited the cart. The paint was peeling, and the wood was damp, but as he touched it, a wave of determination swept through him. "If I can fail, I can also succeed," he muttered. He decided to approach his failure as a lesson. Analyzing the mistakes, he realized he had been too dependent on weather and location. He needed a more reliable plan. This time, instead of rushing in, he sought advice. Arman visited his mentor, Mr. Kapoor, who listened intently to his story. "Good," Kapoor said with a grin. "Good. I failed," Arman exclaimed. "Exactly," Kapoor replied. "Failure is your best teacher. You've learned what doesn't work. Now let's focus on what does." Under Kapoor's guidance, Arman decided to pivot. He sold the cart and used the funds to start a small home-cooked meal delivery service. His mother's cooking, loved by everyone in the neighborhood, became the heart of his business. He spent days designing flyers and nights delivering meals on foot. The response was slow at first, but word of mouth worked wonders. Customers praised the homemade taste and affordable prices. Arman's business began to grow steadily, and for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. Just as Arman's meal delivery service was gaining momentum, trouble came knocking. A rival catering service, noticing his growing popularity, decided to crush the competition. They undercut his prices, spread false rumors about his food quality, and even bribed customers to leave bad reviews. Arman's orders plummeted. For days, his phone barely rang. His savings dwindled as he struggled to keep the business afloat. Late one night, he sat at his dining table, surrounded by unsold meals and unpaid bills. His mother, sensing his frustration, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Arman, when the wind blows hard, the strongest trees dig their roots deeper. You faced worse. This is just another storm." Inspired by her words, Arman decided to fight back, not with lies or deceit, but with honesty and hard work. He invited his loyal customers to visit his home kitchen and see how their meals were prepared. He shared videos of the cooking process on social media, emphasizing cleanliness and quality. His efforts paid off. Customers began returning, and his reputation was restored. The rival catering service, exposed for their dishonesty, quickly faded into obscurity. This experience taught Arman a valuable lesson. Integrity and resilience are more powerful than any competitor's schemes. With his business back on track, Arman started thinking bigger. He couldn't keep running the entire operation alone. To grow, he needed a team. He hired 2 assistants, one to help with cooking and another for deliveries. It was a risk, as he had to cut into his profits to pay them, but the extra hands allowed him to take on more orders. Arman also embraced technology. He collaborated with a tech-savvy friend to develop a simple app for ordering meals. Customers could now customize their meals, schedule deliveries, and even leave reviews, all with a few taps on their phones. The app was a game changer. Orders skyrocketed, and Arman's small business began to gain recognition beyond the neighborhood. Local news outlets featured his story, calling him the boy who turned his mother's kitchen into a business empire. But success brought new challenges. Managing a larger team, keeping up with orders, and maintaining quality became a daily battle. There were moments when Arman felt overwhelmed, but he reminded himself that these were the problems he had once dreamed of having. Success came at a cost. As Arman's business grew, his personal life took a back seat. He missed family dinners, skipped festivals, and rarely spent time with friends. The boy who once dreamed under the stars now spent his nights hunched over spreadsheets and delivery schedules. One evening, his sister, now a teenager, confronted him. "Arman, you've You've worked so hard for us, but when was the last time you smiled? You wanted this life to make things better, not to lose yourself." Her words hit him like a bolt of lightning. He realized that in his pursuit of success, he had forgotten why he started this journey in the first place: to create a better life for his family. Determined to find balance, Arman restructured his business. He delegated responsibilities, hired a manager, and created systems that allowed the business to run smoothly without his constant presence. For the first time in months, he took a day off. Sitting with his family at dinner, laughing over shared stories, he felt a sense of fulfillment that no amount of money could buy. The next morning, he returned to work with renewed energy and a clear vision: to build not just a business, but a legacy. Years had passed since Arman first sketched his dreams on the rooftop. His meal delivery business had grown from a small neighborhood venture to a thriving enterprise with multiple kitchens, a fleet of delivery vehicles, and a loyal customer base across the city. But deep inside, Arman knew he had reached a crossroads. The business, while successful, had plateaued. If he wanted to scale further, he needed significant investment and partnerships. It was a daunting thought. Investors would demand control, and partnerships could dilute his vision. Yet, the idea of staying stagnant was even more terrifying. One day, he received an email from a prominent venture capitalist who had heard about his business. The investor offered funding in exchange for a share of the company. The offer was tempting, but Arman hesitated. He feared losing control of the very thing he had built with blood, sweat, and tears. That night, he revisited his rooftop, now a quiet sanctuary from his bustling life. His mother joined him, as she had so many years ago. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "I'm afraid, Ma," he admitted. "What if I lose everything? What if I fail again?" She smiled, her eyes filled with the wisdom of someone who had seen the world's ups and downs. "Arman, you didn't come this far by playing it safe. Fear is natural, but courage is what pushes us forward. If you believe in what you've built, take the leap. The worst that can happen is you start over, and you've already proven you can do that." Her words were the clarity he needed. The next morning, Arman signed the deal. With the funding, he expanded his business to neighboring cities, invested in advanced technology, and even launched a nutrition-focused line of meals. The risk paid off, and Arman's company became a household name. Arman's journey, once fraught with failures and setbacks, was now a story of triumph. But success didn't make him complacent, it made him reflective. He began to think beyond profits and growth. One day, during a meeting with his team, Arman proposed a new initiative, a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds. "When I started, all I had was a dream and a few kind people who believed in me. Now it's our turn to give back." The program became a cornerstone of his company, offering training, funding, and resources to aspiring business owners. Many of them, like Arman once was, came with nothing but an idea and determination. Watching them succeed filled Arman with a sense of purpose that no amount of money could rival. At a grand event celebrating the 10th anniversary of his company, Arman stood on stage before a packed auditorium. The young man who once doubted himself now inspired thousands. In his speech, he said, "Success isn't about wealth or titles. It's about the journey, the sacrifices, the failures, the lessons. It's about lifting others as you climb. I stand here today not because I was lucky, but because I refused to quit. To every dreamer out there, the road is hard, but it's worth every step. Keep going." As the audience rose to their feet in applause, Arman looked out at his family in the front row. His mother, sister, and father, now healthy and proud, smiled back at him. In that moment, he realized his greatest success wasn't the empire he had built, but the lives he had touched along the way. Arman's story is a testament to the power of resilience, hard work, and unwavering belief. He started with nothing but a dream and overcame every obstacle to not only achieve success, but also create a lasting impact. His journey reminds us that while the path to greatness is never easy, it is the struggles and sacrifices that make the destination meaningful. And for those who dare to dream, no obstacle is insurmountable.